Serious, girls and women of Reddit. How old were you the first time someone made a sexually inappropriate comment to you? How did you react? And did it affect how you saw yourself or acted? I was 7 when some weird butt guy wanted me to show him the girls' changing room at the swimming pool. Luckily I had the common sense to go looking for my teacher. I was 11 when the normal harassment started with guys twice to thrice my age tried to hit me up and go out with me. The very first guy I remember trying to chat me up in the bus tried to convince me to tell him I was 18. When it finally sank in that I wasn't lying when I said I was 11. He had the graciousness to go completely white in his face and flee the bus at the next stop. I was 13 when a guy at the bus stop tried to convince me to go on a love weekend to Paris with him. He was easily 40. I was 5, was standing on jungle gym on the playground and an older boy came up to me and grabbed my spandex and underwear and stretched out my underwear and looked at my privates. I did not know how to use my voice or stand up for myself. I climbed off the jungle gym and sat under it and cried. I remember feeling so embarrassed and violated. I never told anyone, just remembered that and will probably talk to my therapist about it. I'll go beat up a random little boy in a playground for you if you think it will help. 13 or 14. Guy in his early 20s comes to me, asks if I'm a virgin because he only dates virgins. Me being a shy timid person just stared at him and couldn't form any reply. Just froze on the spot. Wiki. I was 12 years old, walking to the store with my 2 friends to get a Slurpee. We walked past a group of grown men and noticed they were all staring at us. As we passed, one of the men exclaimed loudly to his friends, "I wanna see him on the blonde one's tee." 12 years old. Reading this thread is scary as frick. Dang, I'm sorry. About 12. On my period. Looking and feeling like shit. Simply walking home from the shops. Was wearing jeans and an oversized t-shirt. This butthole and his late 20-something-year-old friends start hooting their car and hanging out the windows while catcalling me. Ignore it. When they suddenly come around again and drive slowly past me and they keep saying how sexy they think I am. I had a moment where I thought, oh god, this is how people end up getting kidnapped. There are 4 of them, and 1 of me. Even if I run I won't make it very far. I started walking faster, and eventually, I assume that they got bored, and sped off. I basically ran home. I have similar incidents but this was the one that came to mind first. Well, this exact scenario happened to me when I was 11 or 12. I felt so terrible, gross and ugly, and I swear men like that can sense you're off your game. I was 12. At a barbecue my parents were having. I was in a bathing suit because we had a pool. A friend of my dad said he'd like to leave his wife there and take me home instead. I didn't say anything because I was so ashamed. I put clothes on and stayed in my room the rest of the party, even though an adult overheard him and he was forced to leave. I was 9 or 10 and a neighbor kid, 7 or 8 grabbed my butt one day while I was out playing kickball with the other neighbor kids. I didn't know what to do so I just went inside. Didn't even finish my turn. Did what I could to avoid him until we ended up in school again. Looking back, hate how young this happened at on both our ends. About the same age, one of my dad's friends made a comment about my chest and how much I looked like a boy and how he couldn't wait to see what I looked like in a few years. Again, just avoided him after that. On a much better note, I, 27F, recently have found myself managing a bar where it's all regulars. One of them, R, M30, told another regular, D, M60, that we were going to hook up and D asks, yeah but, does she know that, and got R to back off without me having to say anything to him. It's honestly some of the alliances that really make a female's life easier. Dang, I wish I had D, M60, in my life. I was 7. I had this beautiful dress that had a full circle skirt and I spun around in it because how can you not when you're 7 and you love your dress? My uncle's friend, M, 50s, was there and he told me to spin again because he could see my underwear. I remember just feeling so gross and afraid. I told my mom and she was livid. We left and I was never allowed near that man. I also couldn't wear that dress afterwards without thinking about how that incident made me feel. It definitely took a little bit of my innocence away. 7 or 8, my sister, 1 year older, and I had just gotten furry boots for Christmas and were wearing them out. 3 teenagers on bikes stopped us and started going off about how sexy we were in those boots and wouldn't let us pass. I remember being confused and scared. My sister, who was blonde, always got the worst of it though. She was raped at the age of 16 and was never the same since. That led to a downward spiral and eventually her death last year. Oh my god, that's heartbreaking. I'm so incredibly sorry for your loss and experience. If this thread has taught me anything, it's that I as a parent need to pay close attention to how people interact with my daughter as she grows up. I feel like the listening to her and taking her seriously were a given, but I never considered having to watch how people watch her. So thank you OP. I have a 3-year-old, an almost 2-year-old, and one more due in May. I've never in my life been as scared shitless or angry as frick as I am right now after reading these stories. I had no idea it was this bad. I was raised by a single mother, and I'm far from perfect, but I don't do this crap. I had no idea how common this is and it's total balls. A step cousin asked to see what color panties I was wearing. I was probably 6. I was a waitress at 15. A man I was serving said I should be in prison for the thoughts I've had about you. Never forgot that one. Speak to me like that again and I'm gonna be the one going to prison. I usually groan at it. Thanks for the awards edits, but I feel obligated to at this point. Thank you all for the awards. I was 15 walking downtown with my best friend and her mother, and this older man, looked like he was in his 50s, walked past us, then circled back around to pass me again while saying I'd love to use that butt as an ashtray. Put all my cigarettes out on that. I was shocked and scared. My best friend's mom jumped between me and him and cursed him out. I was wearing a dress that day. To this day, almost 20 years later, I'm not too comfortable wearing dresses in public. Your best friend's mom is epic. 7. I insisted I have my own room and that I didn't want to share a bed with my mum, so she put me in a room with her scuba diving friend that was renting the room next to us. She obviously trusted him or something to put me in there. He would make comments about how I would grow up to have a nice body, a remark that I never understood because I was 7. I ended getting molested by that son of a BTCH and I never grasped what he had done until years later. Now I distance myself from older men. I grew up being wary of others. How does your mom hear I want my own room and then decided that means to share it with a stranger? I was 12 and was babysitting my younger brother, 11 years younger than me, and took him to the park, and someone apparently assumed he was my son and told me to keep my legs shut next time. I had to ask a friend what it meant. It mostly just made me afraid of being a teen parent and being publicly shamed. My parents adopted my brother when I was 11. My mom and I went shopping and I had the cart with my brother while she went to grab something in another aisle. Someone told me the same thing, that I was too young and to keep my legs shut. I was 6 or 7, first or second grade. We had one computer in the classroom and it was blocked off with wooden panels to cut down on distractions. Principal came in and sat next to me as I was working on the computer. Didn't think anything of it. Then he put his arm around me and slid his hand in between my chest and arm like he was going to fondle my non-existent right breast. Before his hand got too far, I squeezed with all my might and got his hand to stop moving forward. He removed his arm, got up and left. I told my stepmom, but didn't understand what had happened, so told her it felt like he was trying to kiss me or something. She told me I was wrong and being ridiculous, so I dropped it. Fast forward to having my own children, and when my youngest son was in 5th grade, 11, another boy asked him to suck his pee-pee. My son got in trouble because he kept telling the other boy he was disgusting. And of course the teacher never thought to ask why my son was saying that. I asked him why he said the boy was disgusting and my son told me. I was in the office the next morning and refused to let my son go to class until the principal understood that my boy had been sexually harassed and the other boy needed to be disciplined. I also demanded that the teacher apologize to my son. She was not happy. Moral of the story: listen to your kids carefully and daily. Good for you for standing up for your son. Though, I wonder what's going on in that other boy's home to make him say stuff like that. I was 7 years old. I was at a place called Health World. It was an exhibit about the human body that was really popular at the time. There was also a large group of high schoolers there with their school at the time. 6 boys tried to gang rape me in one of the exhibit halls when they thought no one was looking. They were all 15-17. It started with them making comments about my skirt. "That's a short skirt, little mama," and one of them backed me into a wall. It was a blur from there. I remember someone saying, "Hold her down. Make sure she can't fight," and I started screaming for my mom and my cousin. The difference of time between my mother stepping away to get my cousin from a trash can, she threw up, and them trying this was like 5 minutes. They dropped me before they could get my clothes off, but I remember very vividly how horrible it was. I felt so violated and scared and dirty. I repressed how violent this encounter actually was until my ex-BFF's mom shamed me, saying, "You must be a little S. After all, those boys couldn't keep their hands off you at that museum." And yes, they were punished, but a teacher tried to actually defend them and tried to say it was my fault. Until my mom pointed to me, sitting on a chair in the corner, in my little pink skirt, my Little Mermaid t-shirt and my pink Winx Club sneakers. He still tried to keep defending it even when my mom pointed out she's 7 years old. How is IT to any of you that trying to gang rape a 7-year-old seems like IT was a perfectly appropriate thing? Is this what you're teaching them? That was as young as it got. Holy freaking crap. I'm so sorry you had to go through that. I hope these people were punished and that you were able to get some kind of counseling. The world makes me sad for my daughters. I was 8. I was helping my younger cousin onto her tricycle, so I picked her up, and as I was bent over from picking her up, some creep on a bike whistled at me and yelled, "I'm Mammy." I was in pink shorts and a matching Winnie the Pooh shirt. My dad chased him down the street with a bat. I like your dad. I imagine for men, girls and women, sexually inappropriate jokes were made when we were too young to understand how inappropriate it was. Yup. I remember being 8 or 9 and going on a weekend trip for something related to my brother's soccer team. One of the dads asked me if I wanted to be his girlfriend for the weekend. I knew it made me uncomfortable, but I wasn't totally sure why. In hindsight, I should have said something to my mom, but she would typically minimize my feelings, so that's probably why I didn't speak up. I was 12, and we were moving house. I was trying to get up in the mattress shelf in the van, and one of the moving men shouted he could see my panties, and that they were pretty. I threw them away. I've heard weird comments from people in my family throughout the years, but the first time I ever got creeped out is surely something else. I was a professional dancer for 12 years, and when I was 14, my academy had a week where parents could come in and watch the kids progress in class. My mother didn't attend any because she didn't care, except one. She attended my tap class, and in case you don't know, dancers have to wear basically nothing in class. It's just easier, but you especially have to wear very little shorts so you can see your legs and glutes better. This is important in tap because part of the muscles used lie in the hips. There was a girl in my class who raped me, but I never told anybody. She always said weird stuff, but I could get past it. But that day, her dad showed up for the class and obviously was watching everyone. After a particularly difficult and long routine, my mother called me over and told me to pull my sweatshirt down. Note that I was wearing a long, baggy overshirt that day. It was pulled up over my hips though, but only because my tap teacher was really nice and realized how cold it was outside. My mother told me that the other girl's father was staring at my rear end because my shorts were small. My shorts were the same length as everybody else's. By the way, I told her that I couldn't cover up because I need to see my legs, and she told me I should be ashamed of myself for showing off to a grown man. I, a 14-year-old, am in the wrong because a grown man didn't have enough self-control to not stare at a minor while they're working and have to look that way. Like, I'm in class. This is a dress code. I can't do anything about it. I couldn't believe it. She said some other things, but I had to get back to class. But she forcibly pulled my shorts down further to cover me up, which made class difficult because the shorts were basically hanging off of my hips. I silently swore to myself that day that I would never treat my mother the same. I guess it's good I came to that realization, because as soon as I got in the car after my next few classes, she went on and on about how much she hated me, and how I totally embarrassed her today. Things never got easier from then on, and I do not talk to my mother anymore. Thanks for reading. Jesus. That's just a whole bus shitstorm of horribleness. I'm so sorry. I was 18 and working at a Wendy's over the summer. I've never experienced that much sexual interest from strangers, but somehow wearing that uniform made people treat me differently. I was bent over cleaning up a spilled salt shaker when I realized these boys about 13-14 were staring at my butt, bold as brass. I looked at them and one of them just said, "You're good at your job," in this crap-eating tone. Also that summer I was taking my 13-year-old cousin and his friends to the water park and one of them tried to hold me down and pull at my bikini top in the pool. Boys that age are the worst because they're old enough to think it's cool and funny but young enough to have no restraint. They start getting taller and stronger than you, but adults still think of them as kids and think it's funny that anyone would find them intimidating. When I worked at Arby's, the number of men who felt it was appropriate to stare at my breasts then call me by my name, which was conveniently on my name badge we had to pin above our left breast, while not breaking eye contact with my chest was excruciating, especially considering I was 16 when I worked there. I was 9 and a random guy decided to say how nice my legs looked on the shorts I was wearing. I didn't say anything, just walked faster in order to get home. After that I immediately started hating wearing short skirts, dresses, and up to this day, I'm 21, I still feel self-conscious and uncomfortable when showing my legs. I wore dresses every day from 4-9 until some butthole made a comment to me. Then from 10-14 I spent every day trying to hide my body the best that I could. I hate that someone was able to make me feel uncomfortable in my own body for so long with a little comment that made everything terrible for me, but probably wasn't even the worst thing he said that day. The first non-family member sexualization I can remember, I was probably 11. Some random dude whistled at me and then grabbed my non-existent because I was prepubescent. But the actual first one I remember, I was 7. He said, "As long as your T are bigger than your stomach, you'll be fine." Then when I was 10, swimming in their pool, he said, "Don't you think it's time you start wearing a bikini? Go to give the boys something to look at." He was my granddad. I blocked it out and didn't remember either event until I was around 18, when I found out he was still bathing my 8-year-old cousin, and that she would sleep in the bed with him while my grandma slept in another room. They claimed it was because my grandmother worked a different shift and didn't want to wake him up. I told my parents that needed to stop, and then told them about those 2 events in my life. Neither of my parents have really forgiven him for it, and I called CPS, and home visits were made. He stopped bathing her and she stopped sleeping in his bed. I still don't remember any time with him other than those 2 events, and I used to spend the night with them every weekend from birth until I was 8. I asked why I stopped and my mom said I came home upset one day and told my parents I didn't want to spend the night anymore, but wouldn't say why. I'm almost 30 now and I am still uncomfortable around him, but I don't have any clear indication of why. I just trust my gut. It's good your parents believe you. My parents-in-law never believed my wife when she told me all the nasty things her older brother did to her, like telling her he can finger her if she's ever frisky, or like in the old country, he peeped on her via the keyhole in the bathroom door. When I was about 7, a neighbor had a friend over, a guy I didn't know. He asked me if I wanted to kiss a frog on the mouth or a rabbit between the ears. Of course I said rabbit between the ears, and he proceeds to pull the white pockets out of his jeans, holds them up and out, pushes his hips forward and says, "Well, start kissing." I didn't exactly understand at the time what he meant, but I knew it wasn't appropriate. The first of many times in my life. I had forgotten about it until I was in a grocery store recently and this 50-60-year-old guy told a woman that her daughters are beautiful. The woman just said thank you and walked away. The kids were like 5 and 8. It really unduly bothered me, and when I was trying to figure out why, I remembered this and several other times I was young and older guys were inappropriate with me. It sucks. I'm sure literally every woman has a story. I was 12 years old when a grown butt man told me that I looked nice and fertile. Being the innocent kid I was, I didn't know what he meant, but it gives me a pit in my stomach every time I think about it. I was like 12 walking home from school when some older guy whistled and said, "Hey babe." I just kept walking and thought nothing more of it, cause dude was probably just drunk or being a dong in front of his friends. Back in elementary school, some boys used to pick on me by trying to say one of their friends had a crush on me, shortly followed by said boy bursting out with "No way, she's so ugly." So I'm oblivious to most advances now because I never assumed they're serious. Still, I'm pretty lucky to have only been through that. Other girls have gone through much worse. Man, I felt that. Getting asked out as a joke and called ugly in elementary and middle school seriously messes up her view of herself for a long time. This wasn't my first one sadly, but it's the one that most affected me. I was 14 and went into the city for some shopping with my best friend. I was wearing my soccer Letterman jacket, which I was super proud of. We were walking by a homeless man and he said, "The one in the red has nice knockers." It seems like such a little thing, but I began slouching to hide my breasts because they made me feel dirty. When I got a bilateral mastectomy due to breast cancer a few years ago, I remembered this incident once again and got so mad that someone had made me feel ashamed of my body, causing me not to appreciate it for so long. I was just so unprepared for a grown person to say something like that to me. I am so sorry. Hope you are okay now. People like that are terrible. 6th grade, so 11 or 12. I developed early, and I was the new kid. A few of the guys in my class made a bunch of comments. I told them to stop, reported it to the teacher, got the boys will be boys response. After that, I didn't respond until one little douche decided to try to unhook my bra. Well, I'm a pretty easygoing person, but if you touch me, it's on. I grabbed that kid by his stupid little bangs and bashed his head into the wall until he got the message. I got sent to the vice principal's office, where I explained my situation. Repeated harassment progressing to physical assault, all ignored by the teacher. Boy got suspended. I got left alone. I think you dropped this. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.